welcome to another exciting episode of the NFL Network on a Friday, because the regular season is now officially over, and that means one thing and one thing only. It's that magical time of the year. Playoff time, baby.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game. Another game.
Well, that is true, Jim Moore. A lot of these teams that we're going to be looking at here are going to be wondering if they can win another game, and specifically a couple teams that are playing early in the playoff window here as we get set for Wild Card Weekend coming up tomorrow, which, by the way, this is being recorded on January 10th, which just happened to be my birthday today. So, I guess happy birthday to me, but if you want to leave a little birthday greeting below, I would very much appreciate it, but you don't have to if you want to, but I just felt like I needed to do that, but yeah, anyway, before we get to the predictions for Wild Card Weekend, let's go ahead and go to our usual starter here on this show, and that is the NFL Power Rankings for this week, and you're going to notice this week there's two different lists this week. And that is because now that we're in the playoffs, what you're seeing here right now are the teams that did not make the final cut of the playoffs. These are the teams that had the most impressive wins of week 18. The less than spectacular wins of week 18 are all the way at the bottom. I'm talking about the Falcons, the Raiders, the Dolphins, the Jets, Giants, Browns, Titans, all those teams down there. But the best convincing wins of the last week of the regular season, the Jacksonville Jaguars, who fired their head coach not too long after that win. Carolina, which knocked out Atlanta from the playoffs, which, let's be honest, Tampa Bay was going to be able to just take the division anyway, so Atlanta would have been eliminated regardless. But Carolina has been slowly but surely finding their way again, and maybe they can use that for motivation next season. The Chicago Bears, I did not think they were going to win that game against Green Bay, but time management actually worked out in their favor. They got the field goal off, and they beat the Green Bay Packers, and they have a little bit of momentum going into next season, depending on who their next head coach is going to be. Indianapolis is there at number 2. Had a good win last week for a game that really did not matter, and guess what, Indianapolis? You're still stuck in hell because general manager Chris Grier and Chris Ballard, I should say. Chris Grier, I think, is the Miami general manager, and Shane Steichen are still going to be there in 2025. So let's just say that not much will probably change in Indianapolis. But there is a lot of change for the number 1 team on this particular list, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals, who, despite beating Pittsburgh and keeping their slim playoff hopes alive, they got rid of their defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, who at one point was considered a head coaching candidate, and now will probably be back in the defensive coordinator position somewhere else, but hey, give Cincinnati the credit. They didn't give up. They had a pretty good December. It all came down to really that first win, the first loss of the season against New England, which, of course, New England got a win this week, and it cost them, Gerard Mayo cost himself out of a job. They're looking for a new head coach. Cincinnati barely misses the playoffs simply because of that, which, yeah. So, yeah, which just goes to show you, man, you got to win those critical games, and that's one of those games that cost the Cincinnati Bengals big time, but they did try to come back and win it, and it almost worked too, if only Kansas City didn't play their backups and didn't want Denver in there, but let's be honest, they didn't want Cincinnati to be in the playoffs anyway, but Cincinnati had a shot, so you at least got to give them that, so I give them credit for that, but, yeah, those are the teams that didn't quite make it. Let's take a look at the other power rankings I have here, and that is, of course, the playoff power rankings. And there are the 14 teams in there, and as you can see, I have them from the most possibility to get to the Super Bowl to least likely possibility to get to the Super Bowl, and as you can see, Steelers are down there, squared out at the bottom because of the 4-game losing streak they had going into the end of the season. Green Bay has been on a 2-game losing streak of their own, and Jordan Love is currently injured. Christian Watson's out for the playoffs, as well as first half of the regular season next year with that torn ACL. The Rams, toss-up team. Texans, they won, but C.J. Stroud only played one drive in that game, but the Texans still won against the Tennessee Titans team that wasn't really that good to begin with. But they've also been having kind of a low December, if you will. Denver is right there at 10. They blew out the Kansas City Chiefs backups, and I don't know how far they're going in the playoffs, but hey, they're in there, so congratulations to them. The Chargers at number 9, Philadelphia at number 8, Tampa Bay at 7, Minnesota at 6, then Washington at 5, Kansas City at 4, Buffalo 3, Baltimore 2, and Detroit 1. And Detroit got that for the number 1 seed in the NFC. They are the road to the Super Bowl. If they didn't win that game against Minnesota, I probably would have put maybe Baltimore or Buffalo at the top there. But Detroit, I think, can go far, especially if they especially with the fact that they have now that week off and they can get ready for whoever they're going to face in the divisional round, which could more than likely be a team that they already just saw not too long ago. But those are the playoff power rankings right now, and as the teams get eliminated, we will advance them down to the rest of the regular power rankings here, and the best teams that will still remain will still be will still be there, and when the season is completely over, the Super Bowl and all that, that's when you will see the full final power rankings for the year. So I'm just going off rambling right now, so let's just go ahead and get to the predictions. Let's see how I did, not just for Week 18, but also for the season as a whole. So in terms of my predictions for Week 18, I didn't do too bad. I got 12 out of 16 for 75%. So what does that mean for the final season total? Well, when I tally it all up, the final season result is 174 out of 272 for a percentage total of 64%, which is a D if you go by the school grading system, if you will. And yeah, that's not good. That's not bad. It's not good either. It's just, I guess, passable. I mean, just imagine. I mean, this is kind of like Bart at the end of that Simpsons episode. You know, a D is just, just barely passing, if you will. But hey, maybe I can turn the tide around with my wild card weekend predictions. So let's go ahead and get right to it. And let's just start off with the first 2 games on Saturday night. First off, we have the Los Angeles Chargers at the Houston Texans. I guess you could say the Chargers were kind of the upset team of the year so far. I mean, that and the number 7 team we'll get to, but nobody really expected a whole lot from the Chargers. I mean, Jim Harbaugh, obviously the team was going to be much better with him as the coach under center, but yeah, they have been one of the more impressive teams that just kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, they finally got rid of Brandon Staley, and the results have spoken for themselves. I mean, they had a little bit of a lull in the middle of the season, but they were looking pretty strong right from the get-go, and then by the end of the season, they were kind of hanging in there, even after Kansas City basically just blew them an opportunity to win that game overall, the Chargers have looked like a better team overall this season. They've looked a lot better, and they could make some noise here, and especially considering where they're going to be going, which is the 4th team in the AFC, the 4th seed in the AFC, the Houston Texans, which, yes, like I said before, they won against Tennessee, but they won against the Tennessee Titans, one of the worst teams in football, and who have the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. Take that for what you will. The team was never that good to begin with. Even with the backups they had in there, anybody could beat the Tennessee Titans. Let's just be perfectly honest. And really, the month of December has not been very kind to the Houston Texans whatsoever. I mean, yeah, they got that 1 win against Miami to clinch the AFC South, but the AFC South was terrible in 2024. Let's just be honest. You had a Jacksonville Jaguars team with a lot of good pieces, but terrible coaching, and the quarterback couldn't stay healthy. You had a Tennessee Titans team, like, as I said before, just got the number 1 pick in the draft. You had an Indianapolis Colts team that at times looked like they could compete with the Texans, but then they couldn't decide on who was the better quarterback, the guy they drafted or Joe Flacco. And just, that whole situation is just a flabbergasted, and that's going to continue into 2025 apparently. So yeah, the Texans really have nothing to be really impressed about, to be really that excited about, except the fact that, hey, they get to host another playoff game, but they're getting a team that will come in there and should put up a fight in the Los Angeles Chargers. The running game has gotten a whole lot better with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Their wide receivers, when they catch the ball, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston. The defense is getting better, is getting hot at the right time. They could really give the Houston Texans a tough time because the Texans really created big time. In fact, it's funny that Saturday is the two teams in the playoffs that have been the worst in December. We'll get to that one in just a second because, boy, do I have a lot to say about the other team that I'm going to be talking about here. But, yeah, the Houston Texans, I had them early on in the season as my dream Super Bowl pick for the AFC. I thought they were heading in the right direction. They were 6-2 at one point, and then they just fell off a cliff, man. The injuries kept piling up, and there's really been nothing to get that excited about with the Houston Texans overall. So what makes me think that the playoffs are going to be any different with them? In terms of this matchup here, I got to go with the hot hand here, and that's the Los Angeles Chargers. I think they've got house money right now. They have a good quarterback They have a good quarterback play right now. Good running game. When the wide receivers catch the balls, they're pretty good. The defense is getting good. They've got a head coach who's won a championship in Jim Harbaugh. The pieces are definitely there for the Chargers to go in there and upset the home team in this one here. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Los Angeles Chargers to win this one. I think the Los Angeles Chargers win, and they will advance to the next round of the playoffs, in the divisional round. So Houston will be one and done, at least according to me. But that's my thoughts on that one. The Chargers beat the Texans. And then we get to the main event on Saturday night, and that is, of course, the 6-seeded Pittsburgh Steelers versus the 3-seeded Baltimore Ravens. The Steelers going back to the place where the Ravens once again stole the AFC North away from them because the Steelers decided to crater at the worst possible time. I'm not going to say that I predicted that this was going to happen after the Cleveland game, but I predicted that this was going to happen after the Cleveland game. I thought for some bizarre reason, they got the 10 wins. Mike Tomlin's just like, I've got my non-losing season. I think I'm just going to coast from this point forward. If we make the playoffs, so be it. If we don't, so be it. And then they make the playoffs, and now it's just like... And thus, here we are. We're in this situation here. There's so much you could say about how bad this team was and just in the month of December, but good Lord. I knew it was going to be bad, but I didn't think it was going to be this bad. The last 4 weeks have been absolutely atrocious. No question about it. Now, you can make the argument that it's Russell Wilson. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be the person that says that it's all Russell Wilson's fault. He is to blame for a lot of the reasons why the team kind of faltered, but that's because... everything focuses... You can also blame George Pickens. You can also blame the running game. You can blame the defense for regressing. But blame the people that brought this team together. Blame the coaches. Let's blame Teryl Austin. Let's blame Arthur Smith, and let's especially blame Mike Tomlin. And I'm sorry, I don't care about the non-losing season records anymore, because if you live here in Pittsburgh, and you've seen this team in the playoffs in the last couple of years, then you know good and goddamn well what's going to happen this Saturday. And, I know there's people out there that want to try to continue this idea that, oh, well, it's the playoffs. It's everything's different, especially in the divisional battle between the Steelers and the Ravens. These are, they've been in the playoffs before, and the Steelers have come out. So why can't you just say the Steelers will win this one? Look, Zay Flowers isn't going to be playing for the Ravens this weekend. It's a big loss for them. Yeah, is Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson still going to play? Because I'm pretty sure that they're going to be the reasons why the Steelers lose this game. They just have to run them across the field, and yeah, that's how the Ravens probably will win. It's more than likely will win this game. I mean, there's no denying that they're going to win this game. And I'm not even going to try to get excited for this because I've been down this road before the last 9 years now that the Steelers have been in the playoffs. One and done in disappointing fashions. They let Jacksonville get out to a 28-0, I think it was 21-0 lead in 2017. Then in 2020, the Cleveland Browns destroyed them in their home. Then 2021, the Kansas City Chiefs destroyed them in the first quarter. Then last year, the Buffalo Bills destroyed them. What makes me think that that's going to change now with the way that this team has been playing? Yeah, they can keep saying that, oh, well, that's different. The playoffs are a much different animal. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the playoffs. Yeah, if nobody knows what's going to happen in the playoffs, then why was the result not different the last 4 times that this team has played in the playoffs? Honestly. If the Steelers were smart, when they lose this game on Saturday, which they're going to lose this game, I don't care what anybody says, they're going to lose it because of the history. They've got to do something. I just want them to just get rid of Mike Tomlin and just let's just start over already. Let's just go ahead and just start all over because this is getting ridiculous that they keep letting this happen. Like this team that was so proud of the fact that they were the first team to win 6 Super Bowls and they were excited to win Super Bowls is now so desperate for some kind of success that they're just like win a playoff game. That's all you got to do. Win a playoff game. It's just like this is how bad it's gotten in this town. This is how bad it's gotten with this football team, and just like I have no reason to believe that the result is not going to change again. This is like Groundhog Day. This is like that scene when Bill Murray's trying to kill himself over and over and over again. Like the video I made last year. That's what's going to happen again in this one, except this time, it might not be Groundhog Day. In fact, as I'm thinking about what I'm doing for the eliminations in the postseason, I'm thinking of doing a Home Alone 2 clips, and I'm thinking for this one, when the Steelers do lose, I'm going to use the clip where Kevin's throwing the brick at the Harry and Marv, and just, the bricks are all just the teams the Steelers have lost to, the Jaguars, the Browns, the Chiefs, the Bills, like, I don't want to think this because this is my hometown team, but I'm so sick and tired of watching this team being a punching bag to all the better teams in the NFL because the Steelers are just stuck in 2005. They think they can go on a miraculous playoff run like 2005. That was a once in a lifetime thing. The rest of the NFL has evolved since then, and if you can't evolve from that, then you've got to take a really good hard look at yourself and think about what you're really doing here. And unfortunately, the Steelers, I don't think, are really doing that. Like, it's just, I could go on forever and ever because, trust me, I have a lot of rage inside of me when it comes to this team and how they keep just disappointing me every single December. It's depressing watching this team in the month of December because we all know the results of this and we know what's going to happen come January. And it's just like, I don't know, like I said, I could go on and on about this, but I'm just going to say the Ravens will win this one easily. Ravens will advance. Steelers are one and done, and the changes that should be made will never happen, and we'll continue to play the same song and dance from here until the end of time. I got nothing else for you. That's my pick for that game. Ravens over the Steelers. And really, it should not be a shocker at all. I will be more shocked if they actually do win this game and move on. Only to get their butts whooped once again by Buffalo or Kansas City. But no, I think it's going to be the Ravens moving on to the next round. That brings us to the Sunday games, and a very interesting triple header we have here. Starting off with the first one here, the Denver Broncos at the Buffalo Bills. The last time these two teams met were last season on Monday Night Football. That was back when Russell Wilson was the Denver Broncos QB. And the Bills got completely hosed by the Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson and company really came into that game and kind of shocked the Buffalo Bills in particular, winning in on a game-winning field goal at the end. Benefited from a penalty, of course, but Denver made the playoffs, and for the first time since the Peyton Manning Super Bowl run in 2015. And of all the quarterbacks they've had there, it's Bo Nix that turns the tide around. I mean, this is a team that has a lot of things going against them. They've got a rookie quarterback. They have all this dead cap money from the Russell Wilson trade. They're still paying Russell Wilson, even though he's been playing for Pittsburgh this season. Everything has been working against them, and yet they have just found ways to win games. I had them pretty much dead and buried after they had 2 chances to clinch the playoffs in weeks 16 and 17 against Los Angeles and the Cincinnati Bengals, and they lost those games. And I thought, okay, here we go. This is 2008 all over again. And then Kansas City gave them a big boost and brought them into the playoffs, and lo and behold, here they are. And really, the possibilities are endless of what could really happen in this one here, even though they're going up against a really good Buffalo Bills team. And when it comes to the playoffs and the Buffalo Bills know how to have playoff games because those people in those crowds get so hyped up. It's going to probably be snowing during that game because it usually is snowing around this time of the year. And we got a big polar vortex going on right now. I think right now, as I'm recording this, it's like 6 degrees outside is up here in western Pennsylvania. It's that cold up here, and Buffalo's not too far away from here. But yeah, it's going to be a very interesting game overall. Plus, the Bills have that new stadium coming in a couple of years, so you only get a couple more years of that experience at the current stadium they're at. And the games they played, when it's snowing, when it's wintry out there, it's usually a good, fun time to watch all the way through. So This should be a very entertaining game on that front there. Josh Allen is in the conversation for the MVP award after everything he did during the regular season, and they had a chance to get the 1 seed. They just needed Kansas City to lose a game or two, but it just never happened for them. And so they're stuck playing in the wild card round, and really they're up there with the Chiefs. I think they're actually much better than the Kansas City Chiefs when you really think about it, because the Chiefs only got hot in the last couple of weeks, but the Buffalo Bills have been red hot most of the season. I mean, they have done very well when they need to play well. I mean, everyone kind of had them also being that team that was going to be one and done. Their road to the Super Bowl was closed because Stephon Diggs isn't there anymore. But Josh Allen has found a way to get people the ball. This team's looked as good as they've ever been. I mean, this is a team that could give the Chiefs a tough time if they make it all the way to the AFC Championship game again, which this is basically looking like it's going to be setting itself up for. Because I'm taking the Buffalo Bills to win this one. I don't know how good Denver's really going to be in here. It's always tough to figure out how good rookie quarterbacks can be, because sometimes rookie quarterbacks sometimes they win their first playoff game, but then most times they don't usually do that. And we're going to talk about another rookie playing on Sunday in his first game as a rookie quarterback. We'll get to that in just a little bit here, but I don't know if Denver can continue the streak that they're on, but I'm going with the Buffalo Bills to win this one. I think that's not really much of a surprise here. I don't know. I think Denver might give them a shot at times to probably come in there and upset them, but I think Buffalo will just be too much for them to handle. So I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills to move on. They get to host they get to host the Baltimore Ravens next week, according to my divisional round predictions, which we'll get to in just a little bit here. But I'm taking the Buffalo Bills to beat the Denver Broncos. So that's all the AFC teams in the wild card weekend. Now let's get to the NFC teams, and we start off with the Green Bay Packers at the Philadelphia Eagles. The 7th seed Green Bay Packers at the number 2 seeded Philadelphia Eagles. And the last couple weeks for the Philadelphia Eagles, it's been sort of a mixed bag. Jalen Hurts got into the concussion protocol a couple of weeks ago, but the Eagles have still played very well. They had even without their starters in there in games that have been really unnecessary, but they have won the division, and Jalen Hurts is going to play on Sunday. I think everyone's kind of expecting him to be ready to go, even though he hasn't been officially taken out of the concussion protocol as yet. He's been practicing all week long, and it's not going to be too much longer until they actually do bring him out of there. So I have no reason to believe that he's not going to play this Sunday. But they're going to play against the Green Bay Packers. Now, the last time the Packers went into the playoffs last year, they also went to another NFC East team to start their playoff run, and that was against the Dallas Cowboys. And of course, we all know what happened. Green Bay completely overshadowed them and completely decimated the Cowboys because the Cowboys were seen as frauds once again. And then the Cowboys went on their big all-in push, which ended up with them not making the playoffs at all and just kind of falling apart at the worst possible time. And Dallas Cowboys really need to start making some changes, man. Like, why are we holding this up until Mike McCarthy's contract negotiations end next week? Rip the Band-Aid off, man. Just shit or get off the pot. But that's another team altogether. So I'm bringing this up because, of course, Green Bay is going to another NFC East team in their first playoff game. But the Philadelphia Eagles are a much different animal because the Philadelphia Eagles have not only Jalen Hurts, but Saquon Barkley. I mean, just like the Baltimore Ravens, they've got 2 key running pieces that one of them can also throw the football. And Saquon Barkley has had a redemption year for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Giants have to be kicking themselves for letting him go to the division rival and thinking that they were not going to get anywhere with him. But the results have spoken for themselves. Now, Green Bay, it's very tough right now where the Packers are going to be right now, especially considering that Jordan Love suffered the injury in that last game against the Bears, and of course Christian Watson tore his ACL, so that's a big wide receiver piece gone from them in this matchup here. But this team has looked pretty good last year, and nobody was really giving them a chance overall. They almost beat the San Francisco 49ers in the divisional round, but then they couldn't finish the job there. And this I think, is going to be very, very tough for the Packers to go into Philadelphia and win this game here, especially with Jalen Hurts back, especially with Saquon Barkley in the backfield. I think it's going to be really hard for them to do so here. It's not impossible, but I'm going with the odds here. I'm going with the 2 seed to win this one. I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles to win this one here. I think Green Bay will make it close, but I think Philadelphia will be able to win this one with no problems attached to it. So give me the Packers to lose to the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles win this one, move on to the next round. And then we have the Sunday Night Football matchup, probably the most intriguing matchup of the entire weekend because it's the Washington Commanders, the 6-seed Washington Commanders, going to Tampa Bay to take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And yeah, these two teams have had some pretty interesting history in the playoffs, especially with these two. This isn't the first time we'll be seeing the Commanders taking on the Buccaneers in the postseason, and when they've been in the playoffs, there have been a lot of very interesting matchups between both of these football teams. I mean, this has usually been a matchup where these two teams really do come out and put their all into it. Of course, last time these two teams met, they were the Washington football team, and they were one of those teams that didn't had a losing record, but Tampa Bay had Tom Brady, and that was a game that could have easily been a lopsided game, but they almost made it close. The final score was 31-23. They didn't win that game. But this is not the first. But they beat the Buccaneers in 2005. Is in Tampa Bay, which is where this game's going to be played, and they went on to the divisional round that year. They lost in the divisional round to the Redskins back then. Lost to the Buccaneers in 1999, 14-13. So yeah, they have been in a lot of these games that have actually been very, very interesting and very, very competitive. And none more interesting this year by the fact that you have Jayden Daniels for the Washington Commanders, who has been, the Commanders overall this season have been one of the more fun teams to watch, and just the ways that they take it down to the wire and win these close games. Like, everyone talks about the Hail Maryland. Everyone talks about the way that they beat the Philadelphia Eagles at home. They beat the Atlanta Falcons in overtime to get into the playoffs. Just last week, with with Marcus Mariota as the backup quarterback, they found a way to beat the Cowboys in the final seconds of the game. So this team is getting hot at the right time. Also getting hot at the right time is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who, they had a lot of worries going into the season because Atlanta had the season sweep. They had a whole lot of games where they just did not. They didn't end up playing as well as they should have because of, injuries. Chris Godwin got injured in the middle of the season. That was rough for them. But Tampa Bay has found a way to win these games. And, it came down to the wire last week, but they beat the New Orleans Saints to win the division. And it was a very, very good game, all things considered, in that game in particular, just because of how, Tampa Bay never gave up. They never settled for the inevitable loss that they were going to be in, but they, Baker Mayfield and Bucky Irving really helped save the day in that one. But then again, Tampa Bay may very well win this game if they have their newest secret weapon. And I think you all know exactly what I'm talking about. That's right, the Duck. They brought him back last week for the game against New Orleans after what he did against Carolina. So if he's there, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers probably have a good chance to win this game. Okay, maybe not, but I just think that's kind of hilarious, and I can't believe no one else has made the Tampa Bay Bucktails joke, and I really could have done that, but yeah, I can't believe nobody else has made that joke yet. But Bucktails, woo! Like I'm sorry, I just find that very hilarious that this duck that just came out of nowhere has become kind of like the sub-hero for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the results have spoken for themselves. But in all seriousness, I really do think Tampa Bay does win this game. I think Washington will try to make it a close game in general, and it could be another one of those miracle games. But like I said before with the Denver Broncos, you got a rookie quarterback in his first playoff game, and most times than not, they don't usually perform very well, and it's usually the team that they're playing against that usually wins that game. But who knows? Maybe things could actually be different with how Jayden Daniels has been playing. Maybe this could be another C.J. Stroud situation like last year, and even Jordan Love last year too. That was his first playoff game from his first year as a starter. But I don't know. Washington probably could win this game, but I'm going with the odds here. I'm going to go with Tampa Bay to win this one here. I think it's going to be a very close game, but I think Tampa Bay does pull it off just because of how well they've been playing the last couple of weeks. Baker Mayfield has been able to find ways to win these games without one of his top targets. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take Tampa Bay to win this one. Give me Tampa Bay to beat Washington and move on to the next round. And thus we come to the final matchup of the wild card weekend on a Monday night. The Minnesota Vikings at the Los Angeles Rams. Well, okay, maybe not technically in Los Angeles because they did just announce today that game is going to be moving to Glendale, Arizona, because of what's happening with the what's happening in Los Angeles right now with the wildfires, which, yeah, by the way, folks, yeah, that is something that is just very, very scary to look at. And anybody who's really making jokes about this, like saying, oh, not just making jokes, but saying, oh, it's good that this happened. It's just like, yeah, there's a special place reserved in hell for you when you die like that because just like millions of people thousands of people lost their homes in that situation. Yeah, you may have a problem with Hollywood, you have a problem with celebrities in general, but there are people too that just lost everything they had. These people just had to leave their homes. Some of them can't even go back to their homes now. Their homes have been severely damaged and all that. It's just like, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's celebrities. I don't care if it's politicians. I don't care if it's people I don't like. You lose your home like that in the way that people in Los Angeles are losing their homes, and these fires that are still going on as of right now. It's just like the fact that people are celebrating this. Just like I said before, when you die, there'll be that special place reserved in hell for you, where you could suffer the most for that, because it's just inexcusable, man. I feel for the people who lost their homes in those wildfires, and yeah, of course, my thought is. I know thoughts and prayers really don't mean much, but my thoughts and prayers go out to those people out there. We are thinking about you over there in LA. But well, with that said, let's get back to the game at hand here, because this is a rematch of a game that we saw in the regular season. We all remember what happened on that Thursday night when the Vikings took on the Rams. The Rams beat them, but there was a controversial no face mask call on there that. No face mask call that should have been called in that game, and of course, Minnesota was not happy about that. And that was one of their few losses that they had this season. But hey, they get a chance to go back and make amends for what happened. And yeah, it's a very interesting scenario it's a very interesting scenario here, because yeah, the Rams are. I'll say this about the Los Angeles Rams. After starting very poorly, they had a very bad start to the season with a lot of their key players getting injured. Cooper Kupp, of course, Puka Nacua. They were really not looking good. They were 1-4 to start the season, and then when the bye week happened, they were just taking off after that point. They had a lot of games where they were really doing very well, and of course, in that game in particular, it was that was a game where Minnesota was seen to be as the front-running team to win it, but Minnesota just came in there, but Los Angeles came in there and just really took over that game. And now a chance for revenge for the Minnesota Vikings, as well as the Los Angeles it's either. Let me rephrase that. It's a chance for either Minnesota to get revenge or the Los Angeles Rams to continue on that path that they were on when they were in that game, because after that game they played very well. They only lost a couple of games, and even the ones they lost, they were playing backups. Like the last one they lost against Seattle, they were playing against a backup quarterback. But here's the thing with the Minnesota Vikings. I have not seen one convincing win from them this season. I mean, there have been games when they have won. There's been games when they have won and they've been very big blowouts. But then again, they were against bad teams, like the New York Giants. We all know the record with the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers hadn't won a game in Minnesota since the 90s. Houston had never beaten Minnesota in Minnesota. They beat Green Bay by just the tiniest bit. It wasn't even that big of a margin. They beat the Jets, and even then it was a struggle to win that game. They barely got by Jacksonville. They barely got by Tennessee. They barely got by the Chicago Bears twice. They have not had one convincing win against a really good football team, because they lost to the two playoff teams that are in here, the Detroit Lions and the Los Angeles Rams. And yeah, I mean, I'm the one of those people that still does not think Minnesota is that good of a football team. I just don't think they are. I mean, I've been that guy that's saying for years that 2017 was a fluke year for them, and they keep pretending like, no, that's what's supposed to have happened. That should be the sign that we are closer than we've ever been before. You've never been that close before. And yeah, you got lucky this year because Sam Darnold actually played very well, but any quarterback could go into Sam Darnold's position and probably do as well as he is. I don't think Sam Darnold is the true answer for this football team in general. But with all that said, though, I do think the Minnesota Vikings do have a good chance to go in this game and win it, because they are probably still peeved that they lost out a chance to be the number one seed to Detroit. And if they win this game, they essentially go to Detroit. to make amends. I mean, Dan Campbell even said when they were doing the handshakes last week, we'll see in 2 weeks. Like, he knows he's going to see this team again in the playoffs, and yeah, I think they have a good chance of doing so. I think Minnesota does have a very good chance to not only get revenge for the Los Angeles Rams, but go on this revenge tour where they go to Detroit. Now, assuming the Lions can go in there and do it again for the third time, I mean, that would be very interesting. But I think Minnesota has a good chance of going into this game and beating the Los Angeles Rams and getting them set up for that particular matchup in particular. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Minnesota Vikings to win this one. I think it's going to be a very close game. I don't know if the Rams are going to have enough power there to get the win. I'm taking Minnesota to win this one to go to the number 1 seed, the Detroit Lions. Which means that my final division round predictions go like this. The Los Angeles Chargers at the Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens at the Buffalo Bills, the Minnesota Vikings at the Detroit Lions, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Philadelphia Eagles. I feel pretty good about these predictions. Now watch me be completely wrong on all of them, or maybe some of them, or maybe only one of them. Who knows? We'll see what happens when we meet back here next week. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching this, and I hope you've been enjoying these videos. If you want to see what I had to say about Week 18's matchups, go ahead and take a look at the playlist here, as well as some of the other episodes I've done. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, also hit the notification button, and I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you guys next time, and I'll see you next week, by the way, which will be when we'll be doing this again for Divisional Round Weekend. But until then, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week. Take care.